So we've all kind of been there. You walk up and talk to a girl and suddenly she seems only able to give one-word answers, or her cell phone just became the most interesting thing in the world. Or maybe her first words to you are, "I have a boyfriend," or "Sorry, I'm not interested." How do you deal with that situation? How do you turn around a rejection off of the opener? Because the fact of the matter is, the hotter the girl, the more she's getting approached, the more likely she is to be a little bit icy. So if you want to get those hot girls, there are those times when there's a lot of value in being able to turn a bad interaction into a mediocre and then eventually good one. So how do you do it? Let's talk about that right now. First thing you need to realize about turning around a rejection on the opener is that that probably isn't your actual problem. For about 70% of guys who come to me and say they have problems with rejections on the opener, there's one of two other problems. One is there are things going on the opener that are totally normal and totally natural that don't require turning around. You just don't know the next step. And the other thing is that if you are getting a rejection on the opener more than say like a third of the time, and even that's high, if you're getting it more than a third of the time, you're doing something so wrong on the opener, you should actually just focus on having better openers rather than on turning around your bad openers, okay? That said, there are times when no matter how good you are, you will get rejections in the opener, you're gonna have to handle it, and we'll deal with that in a second. But I wanna deal with these first two things first because they are the most common, all right? So, if you are getting a rejection on the opener a ton of the time, focus on your opening. Focus on having good opening tonality. That means not having everything come out sounding like a question or sounding unsure of yourself. It means speaking loudly enough for the girl to hear you. It means having a smile on your face, okay? And the other thing it means, which gets to the next point, is it means continuing to talk after the open. Most people who tell me that they have a problem with rejections on the opener are not getting rejected, they're just getting a quiet set. So for example, you walk up to the girl and you say, start talking about the weather, which is a terrible open anyway, but say you do, you talk about the weather, and you go, "Oh, weather here's whatever." And she goes, "Oh yeah, it's been really cold." And then the interaction goes silent, and the girl doesn't continue the conversation for you. A lot of guys think of that as an open. She's like, "Oh yeah, no, she just gave me a 1 or 2 word response and then ignored me." No, that is not her job. You're the one who walked over to her and opened her. You're the one who decided to have this conversation. She didn't decide to, and she's not necessarily ready for it, okay? She doesn't know what to say to you. She doesn't necessarily know what you're there for yet. She doesn't want to embarrass herself. And as hard as it is for you to come up with something to say, it's actually even harder for her because one, she's unprepared, and two, as a girl, there's a lot more social stigma attached and a lot more social pressure on her, okay? So it is your job to carry the interaction after the open. I equate it a little bit to when I was a kid, I had to mow the lawn. I had like a lawnmower with a choke on it, right? So you pull the little choke to start the engine, and it goes, and then like kind of dies. And then you got to pull it again, and then it dies a little bit more. And then eventually on the third or fourth pull, usually the engine starts, and then you can mow the lawn. And that's a great metaphor for game. You get the engine started, and then you can mow the lawn. No, but anyway, the point is you have to pull it. You can't just get angry at the lawnmower and be like, it's not working because it didn't go on the first pull. The nature of the lawnmower is sometimes it needs a couple pulls to warm up. Same thing with conversation. You throw out one conversational topic and it goes for a second and then dies. Well, it's your job as the person initiating the conversation to carry it on your shoulders and continue it. So you say, "Hey, the weather here is like whatever," which by the way, again, terrible opener. Say, "Oh yeah, it's been really, really cold." And then you got to bring another conversation topic. It's funny, I'm actually from Colorado, and that gets a stereotype of being cold, but it's actually very, very nice there. I fucking love it. Sometimes I miss that place. And she goes, "Oh no, yeah, I love going there. I went there on vacation." Okay, it died again. You'll be like, what's funny about you is there's something so polite, but at the same time, she's like, "Oh, why do you say that? I'm so curious." And now all of a sudden this conversation's going. But you had to pull that string a couple times. That first thing didn't quite do it, all right? You have to understand that's how conversations work. And just because she gives you a 1 or 2 word answer at the start, or just because she doesn't invest in the first conversational topic you bring up, does not mean it's an actual rejection. So let's talk about this mantra of just say anything, keep talking no matter what, because this is what most people who teach game, who teach pickup, this is what they will say the key is. And the fact of the matter is it's a start. It's a start because if you shut up and leave, obviously that has 0% chance of success. If you continue talking, there's some chance of success. However, just talking for its own sake is not gonna get the job done. The reason why just talking works is that by just talking, there's some chance you'll say something good. But it's not the just talking that did it, it's the saying something good. And so a lot of people teach this idea of just talk no matter what. They even come up with like clever words like $1 million mouthpiece, whatever the heck that means. And they'll say just keep talking, just self-amuse. Well, the fact of the matter is you still have to say the right things. For example, if I just like self-amusingly go like tree, dog, t-shirt, building with a pizza under the ocean seaboard and the fish's pajamas, right? What's that do? Are you attracted yet? Right? It doesn't make any sense. Also, if I just talk about more boring, mundane things, like I talk about like, my job, which bores the hell out of me and I'm not enthusiastic about it, or even if I am enthusiastic and I just seem like an idiot or a clown, none of that's gonna do it. Also, even if you did tell just a random good story and it's amusing, it's still not relevant to you and her. All right, so what you actually wanna do is instigate, make things relevant, and we're gonna teach you how to do that right now. For most people, they have interaction after interaction during their day. They talk to the bus driver, the person at Starbucks, their boss, and at the end of the day, they've forgotten most of those conversations because they were just very boring, very normal, and they didn't require our emotional response, okay? Now, if you want to talk to girls and not instigate an emotional response in them, you're gonna get a lot of being ignored, being rejected, etc. If you instigate an emotional response, you're going to get a reaction. Now, that can sometimes be positive, it can sometimes be negative, but a reaction is engagement. A reaction is your opportunity to be able to continue the conversation. It's your opportunity to be able to demonstrate who you are. All right, so what I want to encourage you to do is instigate. And probably the best way to do this is there are a couple kind of principles of what instigates. First principle is anything that's about her is likely to instigate more than something that's about a random topic. Anything that's about you and her together is a little more high risk, but even more likely to instigate yet, okay? Anything that's a little bit arrogant or polarizing is likely to instigate, right? And usually the best things to use to instigate early on in interaction are to adopt frames that, if true, would lead to sex, okay? So if you go in and imply that you're very hot and she's attracted to you, let's look at what that can create. That can create either she agrees with the frame, in which case she's agreed you're hot and she's attracted to you. That's a pretty good place to start an interaction. Or she's going to dispute that frame, which results in shit tests. And shit tests involve engaging with you, paying attention to you, putting energy into the conversation, and giving you an opportunity to convey that you're a high value guy. So between a girl staring at her phone and ignoring you versus a girl giving you shit tests, girl giving you shit tests is about 100 times better, okay? So your goal is to get a reaction, even if it's negative. In order to get a reaction, you want to do things that are emotionally relevant. And actually, when you're opening, your openers should likely have something emotionally relevant about them, okay? So for example, hey, you're cute, I wanted to talk to you, is emotionally relevant because you're indicating a man-to-woman interaction, you're indicating possibility, you're indicating, potential even future sexual escalation, and it's personal to her. So that can instigate, right? If, say, a girl looks at you like, oh my God, don't look at me like that, as your opener, that's instigating, that's very likely to get a reaction. Maybe a push-pull, oh my, you look so cute over here, but that is the weirdest dress you're wearing. Right? Instigating, she might comment on the cute, might comment on the dress, but because it's about her, because it provokes a reaction, you're likely to get something. Even the old school opinion openers, where you're just basically telling a story, at least you're telling a story that's meant to be fascinating to girls, or at least you're leading in with a story to get her input and make her a little bit curious and intrigued. So one way or another, you are instigating. And that should be the case with every opener. So for those of you who are getting rejections on the opener a lot, first thing is have an opener that instigates. But once you get the rejection, the next thing you do should instigate also. Now there's one other problem here. What if you do a good opener that instigates, and then they reject that, and then you do something very similar. They reject that, you do something very similar. Well, there's this idea that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing that didn't work before and expecting it to work. That's what most guys do when they are decent at opening and they instigate, but then they get a rejection. They just keep opening in the same way. So you hear guys go with a direct open. They're like, hey, you're cute, I wanted to meet you. And then like the girl responds negatively. They'll be like, so look, I just really liked your look, which is the same damn opener. Or I'd be like, sorry, I had to come over here because I was intrigued, which is the same damn opener. So you found this one format that she doesn't respond to, and you're doing the same format over and over and over again. So the solution is this, and this is like the key piece, okay? Do something that instigates, but do something different than you've done before that instigates. So if you went with a direct opener, it didn't work, maybe now you go with an opinion opener. Or maybe now you go with some kind of a disqualifier or neg or like push-pull type opener. In order to be instigating, right? If you went with something very negative and she ignored you on it, maybe actually apologize and go pause and be very sincere in an instigating way. All right, does that make sense? So you don't want to do the same exact thing that didn't work. And so what you're really doing when you get a rejection off the opener, she didn't reject you. Understand that. She didn't reject you because she doesn't know you well enough to reject you. She's only has like a half a second or 1 second sample of your personality, right? She can't possibly be rejecting you. She's rejecting your approach. So your approach either didn't get on her radar or it wasn't the right kind of instigation for her. So what you want to do is do a different instigation. So, again, if you tried one, it didn't work, cycle to the next and cycle to the next and cycle to the next until you find something that works. And you'd be surprised. I've had so many interactions where she's rejecting, no, not interested, don't know, I have a boyfriend, sorry, not happening. Hey, what was that you said? And you found a topic that interested her, or you piqued her interest in some way. Or she goes, wait, what the fuck? And like she gets, oh shit, oh, I'm sorry, you do speak English. And now all of a sudden you're in an interaction with her. Okay, so that can happen a lot. So that's the next step, is have a few different opening formats, learn them, be good with them, and cycle through them. Okay, now the very advanced level of this, when you get to like an expert level, is to understand this. Every single type of open instigates for a particular reason, and it hits on certain triggers for the girl emotionally, right? So not only can you cycle through openers, but you can usually, depending what opener you used before and what her reaction was to it, you can cycle to the correct opener next. So if you tried an opener that was like very direct and like giving your power away a little bit, and she rejected you and whatever in a very like, oh, I'm better than this, you're too low value for me way, you certainly wouldn't want to be complimentary on your next attempt. You'd want something that is polarizing, instigating, something like that. So maybe like a push-pull, or maybe like something that's subtly dismissive would actually be the best next move because of the manner in which she's indicated and the reason you can infer based on that manner, okay? And there's lots of examples of this. If, for example, you go with something that's like maybe an opinion opener and she seems to indicate she's in a rush as her rejection, well, now you need an indicator that gets to the point a lot faster, so you want to use one of your opening styles that achieves that, okay? So what's the secret? Number one, you need to instigate. If you're not getting a reaction, any reaction is better than none. So be polarizing, take on an arrogant frame that would lead to sex, and let her at least reject it or respond to it, right? Don't just let it sit in this like boring conversation that will be forgotten zone. So first step is instigate. Second step is do not do what has already failed before. If you did one format and it didn't work, drop that format and try something else. And then thirdly, as at an advanced level, start to understand why the different formats work, and that way you can actually know which format is best and you'll be very efficient. So instead of throwing 10 different things at the wall and hoping and probably not getting it to turn around, if on like the second or third try you happen to hit the nail on the head and hit the perfect format to instigate with that particular girl, that's when you're going to get a lot of those negative sets turning into mediocre or positive sets. All right, so that's how you do it. I do want to leave you with one thought though. As much as it is very fun to turn around these negative sets, and as much as some of my most epic victories in game have come from doing just that, I do want to remind you that the most important things in game are focusing on the bread and butter. So you'll get a lot more results off of turning your good sets into great sets and successes than you will off of turning your awful sets into mediocre sets that you have to struggle to eventually make good. It is a good advanced game skill, it is very useful, and it will help you in some cases with some very hot girls, but remember that the fundamentals are the most important things in game, and that will always be the case even when you do get to an advanced level. So I hope that's helped you out a lot. I hope you get some fun interactions out of what were negative interactions, and I hope you can meet some really beautiful girls from applying these tips.